Welcome back to the Clerc podcast show. It is a great week, a hot week to be podcasting. Everyone's sweating their off down here. We don't have any air conditioning in here, so if we look like we're glowing, it's because it is probably 85, 90 degrees in this room. And we're doing our best, though, and we're still here, so it's always good to still come and get through it together. Before we get going, if you could share, comment, like, retweet, pretty much anything to get the podcast out there, that'd be great. This week, we are giving away a Jason Purrington for Sheriff, re-elect Jason Purrington for Sheriff t-shirt. All you got to do to win that is, like I said, tweet or retweet, share, comment, pretty much anything, get it out there. We will randomly draw a winner that will win the shirt. I have it on right now. Make sure you vote for Jason Purrington for Sheriff. A great guy, helped out with the movies. Helped me out a lot. A great community guy. I can't say enough good things about Jason. So it's great that he's running again, and I really hope he gets reelected. This week on the podcast, we are with Adrian Lee. But before we get to you, we have Mason Leopold back.
Hey.
Thanks for coming.
No problem.
When was the last one you were on?
The Lee Holt one.
The Lee Holt one. We miss Lee Holt. That was a great episode, and thank you for coming back on, Mason.
He needs to come back.
He needs to come back. Across the table, Damon, you were just on last week.
I was.
On the most viewed podcast episode.
It was, so
and
far.
I kind of want to bring that up. Thanks to everybody so much. We got so many good comments and about that podcast. It right now is the most viewed, the most listened to podcast. And so I can't thank you guys enough for sharing it, telling your friends about it, because it kind of blew up. So that is awesome.
That story is still developing, so everyone keep your eye on it. Things get more interesting every day. $400,000 reward now.
$400,000.
Thoughts and prayers for Molly and her
Wow.
family.
You should ask a psychic. That would be beneficial.
Yeah. Right?
Have you heard much about this, Adrian?
I haven't, but I have done a lot of work for various police departments, and I've worked for various cadaver dog units that go looking for dead bodies, and I've talked to spirits.
Really?
So, a lot of psychics I know that are in the cities, for example, work with police departments. The police departments just don't advertise the fact because
They
to
can't
the
really talk about it.
the general public then thinks that they've got no clues, no ideas, and they're kind of relying on psychics. But the fact that the police keep coming back to us would suggest that we're getting things right, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Otherwise,
it
they
seems
wouldn't,
like
they wouldn't bother, would they?
I never knew that.
Have good
so.
hunches.
True, yeah.
That is pretty cool.
Well, before you talk too much, this is Adrian Lee. He was on, I don't remember what episode. It was a while ago.
Sure,
It was back when it was actually cold out, or somewhat.
Yes, why am I here?
We're in a sauna right now, but back then it was still not this warm, and it was a great episode. And that was, like, I think the second most viewed episode is the one you were on. And who knows, that might take off. This might be the most viewed episode after tonight. So.
I think you suddenly realised how much I could actually talk. It's the longest episode. Let's put that out
It is
there.
the longest episode.
It is. I know it was. Yeah, I was there.
We could have talked, I think, for another hour and a half, 2 hours. We probably could have talked all night because we just kept bringing stuff up, diving in. And I hope we can even get into more stuff this episode. Sure. Before we get going, I heard that you're working on a new book. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
As all authors, I'm working on quite a lot of books, actually. I've got a book.
The most current one about to come out.
The most current one. We've got two at the moment. I'm looking to put a first draft together for a book called UFOs and Ghosts.
That's the one I was talking about, yeah.
I've been working on that for 8 years. It's driving me insane.
Wow.
If when I get this book out and it goes to the publisher in the first draft, if anyone ever mentions to me the term UFOs again, I will shoot myself. Honestly, I've read so many abduction reports. I've read everything about UFOs and all the ghostly activity of things flying around in this room as we're talking. And I'm over it, so I need to get that out as quickly as possible. But I've got a book coming out as well I'm working on at the moment on the Dakota-US War of 1862. So I'm working with the Upper Sioux in Granite Falls, and I'm investigating battlefield sites, the sites of massacres, and the anniversary of that is coming up in a few weeks' time, and we'll be out in Redwood Ferry and Birch Coulee and various sites. So I have a book working with the Upper Sioux, just solely on the hauntings of the Sioux Uprising. So that's very exciting. I'm looking forward to working with them on that.
I really like how you tie in history to all your books.
That's what I was going to say.
If you haven't read any of Adrian's books, even if you're not a believer, you can read the books and get the history and then that side of it as well.
That's very kind of you. I've read all of these twice. I would recommend them highly. They're very good.
And these are the books right here. These are some of the other ones you've written. We kind of talked about these before, too. This is Mysterious Minnesota, digging up the ghostly past at 13 haunted sites.
There's everything you've ever been to in Minnesota. There's the SS Irving, you've got Fort Snelling, the soap factory. Every historic location being bred and born in Minnesota will be in there. And then Windham, of course. There's a chapter on the hauntings and the ghosts of Windham. And this very building we're in the book Mysterious Midwest. And I very kindly got David Ellefson of Megadeth to ride her forward for that. There's some very strange and surreal things come out of my life. I never thought as a middle-aged British historian I'd be standing in a cemetery on a cold and windy night with Megadeth with a ghost box running. But there you go. This is where we find ourselves.
That's crazy. Well, and to kind of talk about that, if you're as you're bringing it up, the whole Mary Jane grave thing, I was actually kind of slammed about that. Yeah. There was a whole incident that happened, and there was a lot of it was a misunderstanding about some things that happened out at the gravesite. People were smashing graves and stuff, and there was a misunderstanding that it was us, and it wasn't. We got it all figured out. But during that, another part of the thing was that they were kind of mad that we brought up the Mary Jane as a witch. And they said, I don't know, you've looked into this a lot.
Yeah, I've researched everything on that.
They said she was a good woman. And
there was a lot. They were saying that she was not a witch. And I want to get your opinion, that she was never hung, that she died from a natural cause or something.
No witch has been executed in this country since 1693, and that was the Salem witch trials. So that's the first thing. She died in 1880, and we weren't killing witches then. We had electricity, we had the telephone. I mean, we weren't going around decapitating witches. The problem I have with Loon Lake Cemetery is the fact that no one's read the book. Everyone thinks because I'm into ghosts and hauntings and the paranormal, it's all Scooby-Doo. But as you quite rightly say, I'm into the history.
Yeah.
It took 30 seconds to go on Ancestry.com and find Mary Jane's death certificate.
Yep.
And she died, I believe, of diphtheria, if my memory serves me right.
That's what the lady
She's
said,
not a witch at all. No one's read my book. So there's a campaign originally that was very anti-me, very anti-my book. They posted all over the Historical Society, no witches and ghosts are here. They posted all that around the cemetery. David Ellison made a very good point. He said to me, surely the idea is to get people in, and then you educate them and tell them the facts rather than just putting up a big wall. So what I'd like to say while I get the opportunity is you're absolutely 100% right. Nowhere in this book do I say she's a witch. I actually do the historical research to prove that she isn't a witch. And if people are coming into the town to visit Loon Lake Cemetery, regardless of the reason why, they're eating in the restaurants, they're drinking in the bars, they're staying in the hotels. You know, you're stopping tourism coming in and finding out about your town and about your city. So one of the problems I have with that is that no one's read the book. And I do put in the book that she isn't a witch. And I just think there's so much negativity. People say that because of the book that was only written 2 years ago, there's vandalism in the cemetery. Vandalism was taking place in the 1960s.
In the 80s,
I spoke to people in their 50s that said as kids they were doing that in the 60s and 70s. But the strange foreigner comes along and mentions it in a book, and all of a sudden I'm responsible for vandalism. You know, I'm not quite sure how all that comes together, but I do promote the town. I promote the history, and I say she's not a witch.
And so all of that is in the Mysterious Midwest.
Absolutely.
And I wasn't, just to make things clear, I wasn't saying that you said it was a witch.
No,
they
absolutely.
They were just questioning me because we kind of brought up some of the old rumors or whatever, like the myths and stuff. Even though we might have known it wasn't true, we just kind of briefly mentioned it. And I was just curious because I know you did the historical research on that.
One thing I want to add to this is when we were working together, Dave and myself, in the coffee shop in Jackson, we actually raised a lot of money by asking people to donate. So what people don't realise, and Dave never said anything and I never said anything, but I want to say it now several years after the event, is that the restoration that's taking place in that cemetery was funded by us. We raised money to make that happen. So the restoration that's taking place, a large percentage of that, we gave them a donation. And we kept quiet and didn't say anything. So we're getting all the flack for vandalising the place, but we actually put a donation to the restoration. But no one ever hears about that because no one has all the facts, right?
Wow. Well, I had to bring that up because it was something that just happened, and I knew you did the research, kind of wanted to get your opinion on that. But like you said, wasn't a witch. We can get that out of the way. And Adrian never said that she was a witch.
No, never.
That was a great time when David opened that coffee shop.
Awesome.
You were there, I was there.
Yeah.
We took a tour out to the gravesite. It'd be a good giveaway, but I never give it away. I had a 45 Mary Jane from Megadeth on the record and brought it up, and I think he was live tweeting it or Facebooking at the time. He's like, there it is. And he signed it, so I got a nice David signature across my Mary Jane album.
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, that's just a little example of how you get people to town.
The way the economy was boosted on the back of that event, regardless of whether you believe in ghosts or not, lots of people did very well. The shops, the hotels, you know, it doesn't matter if you don't believe in ghosts. You know, it's good for the economy, and it means that the money can be raised to keep historical societies running and to restore pioneer graveyards. And I don't see that as a bad thing, and I stand by my work and what we've done out there.
Oh, yeah, big time.
And if anything, it's made them put a group together now and they're restoring it, I believe?
They are restoring it, yes. And that's when I had to make the phone call to kind of say that none of this was...
You're on blast on Facebook, right?
Yeah, there was a whole thing on Facebook. And I had to call the thing, the Loon Lake Cemetery, whatever, find the page, find the number, whatever, and I got a hold of them and just said, that was not us. Then there was a whole thing that came in there about trespassing and stuff, because... For everybody who doesn't know, you're not allowed to be in the cemetery at night. It is illegal, and they will press charges. And that's something that I was warned heavily. They have cameras out there now, and anyone that goes at night will be charged by the Jackson County Sheriff's Department, and that's something I'm supposed to say.
There we go. It's out there.
Yeah, they have cameras now, and they're not happy with people going out there at night because that's when they think the vandalism or whatever is going on.
But there's a campsite next door.
Yeah, there's a campsite.
That's right, and people are up all night.
And I don't know anybody that wants to go to the cemetery during the day because it's kind of... I mean, I think all the people that are... A lot of the people going out there to get kind of scared or whatever. Sure. To get kind of spooked. And I don't know if people want to do that during the day. But I didn't want to say that really. So I'm just kind of spreading the word, the message I heard, and I don't want to get in any more trouble for that.
I want to add as well that as a paranormal investigator who's investigated all over the world for the last 25 years, very rarely does anything ever happen in a cemetery. It's a very quiet place. It's very peaceful. People have been laid to rest with their friends and family there. Yeah. You didn't hang out there when you were alive. You know,
right.
Do you know what I mean? Of all the places you could go to when you're dead, the cemetery wouldn't be one of them. I could think of 100 places I'd rather hang out in spirit than the local cemetery, right? Yeah. So in my experience, we tend to shy away from them just because we don't get any evidence, to be honest. There's not a great deal there. It's just the bones. No one's there. What will happen is that you can ask for them and they may turn up on the back of you asking, but it doesn't mean they're hanging out there. You just happen to ask for them.
Yep.
So very rarely do we find anything in cemeteries.
Well, I just wanted to clear that whole thing up, and I'm glad that passed over because it was kind of a big thing around here. We were on vacation, actually, or on a road trip, and I woke up in the morning and I got a ton of phone calls and everything.
I remember waking up and you were like, what?
Yeah, what's going on?
Put your wanted poster behind the doors here.
It's like, what are you talking about, Ethan?
Again, it's just very interesting that people are very attacking for no good reason. And, you know, the attacks that you got, you did nothing wrong. The attacks I got, I've done nothing wrong. I actually, this is a history book. And I've written about the proper history and denounced the witchcraft. But
and the sad thing is the people that did do it, they got away with it. And they're probably laughing at us because we're the ones taking all the blame. You know what I mean? So it just kind of made me mad. And things happen, and I think people react too quickly nowadays. They point fingers without any evidence or anything to back it up. They just say, well, that's got to be the guy right there. So I'm glad that passed over. We have something, it's not really related to ghosts, but it's a demonic possession, kind of. Dalton, go to the New Mexico compound. I don't know if you guys heard about this. In the news, it's been everywhere. They've been talking about this desert compound where these 11 kids... have you heard about that? You hear about this, Adrian? Yeah. And the one guy said he was trying to get the demonic spirits out of these kids or something. Very interesting. We'll kind of watch a little bit of this.
Again?
It seems like it. Check this out.
Prosecutors have revealed new information about a remote New Mexico compound where children allegedly were found with no clean food, no water, or electricity. One of the 5 adults accused of child abuse allegedly trained kids to carry out school shootings. Jerika Duncan is following this very disturbing story. Jerika, disturbing and bizarre is the word.
Absolutely, and so many children involved. Authorities raided the compound last week after a tip that there were possibly people there starving. They were also looking for an abducted 3-year-old boy. At the compound, they found the boy's father and 11 other children allegedly living in dire conditions.
The 2 men and 3 women facing child abuse charges appeared in a New Mexico court Wednesday for the first time. According to court documents, when authorities raided their remote northern New Mexico compound last week, they found 11 children clothed in rags and appearing to not have eaten in days. Authorities had been searching for one of the suspects, Siraj Abin Wahaj. He's believed to have kidnapped his then 3-year-old son, Abdul Ghani Wahaj, from Georgia back in December. In a Facebook video in January, Abdul's mother pleaded for her son's safe return.
He's sick. He needs his medication. He need everything.
According According to an arrest warrant, Wahaj told Abdul's mother he planned to perform an exorcism on his son because he believed he was possessed by the devil. Investigators found the remains of a young boy at the compound, but have not confirmed if it's Abdul. According to court documents, authorities also found loaded firearms. Prosecutors say one of the children told their foster parent Wahaj had trained them in the use of an assault rifle in preparation for future school shootings.
There was a shooting range built on the west side of the property.
When you are traveling with women and children, you need to protect yourself.
Gerard Jabril Abdulwali is the father of one of the other suspects, Lucas Morton.
They were peaceful, 5 peaceful adult settlers, trying to homestead and make a better life for themselves. But they just went about it the wrong way.
All right, cut it there. Yeah. They just went about it the wrong way. That seems...
Starving a bunch of kids. And,
yeah. And I don't know the whole story. I don't know where the 11 kids came from. The one guy kidnapped his son or whatever, said he was performing an exorcism on him. Sounds like something just to blame or whatever.
That's the tie-in.
Yeah.
What I take away from that is a very polemic way of thinking, because he said he wanted to exorcise his son because there was a demon in him.
Yeah.
Yet he's training up young children, and I'm assuming they're doing some sort of ritual to put demons in them to then go and do shooting.
It sounds
so.
Like
which is it? Are you putting them in or are you taking them out?
He's interjecting.
Because there was two things going on there, very, very separately.
Confused.
Yeah, very interesting.
He's interjecting, but he's got in his head into his child.
Yeah, and this just came out of nowhere. One day I was just going through the news and this pops up: desert compound raided, 11 kids found. I'm like, what the heck is going on around?
It's like it was like the Middle East, like the compound.
That was New Mexico.
I know, it's just weird.
Yeah, well, wait.
Was it on private property?
Private property. They're looking for the property owner.
Really?
Actually, yeah, he's wanted right now. So I don't know the whole story, and I guess the time was the demonic possession. But it was more because I saw this and I was very interested. Because last week we talked about missing kids and stuff. Kind of ties in too.
It's crazy how they can get away with that though. Like,
well, this country's so large and so spiraling.
Oh,
you can get away with lots of things. I've seen. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I know what goes on in this country, but it's interesting. They said they had no food because obviously a fasting ritual could be taking place there. It might be that they're fasting the children for religious ceremony rather than denying them food. But again, we don't have enough information about what they're trying to do, to be honest.
Yeah, and I don't know if they'll ever know because they're all being tried in court. And they took that kid was missing from Atlanta. He went a long ways. They're all the way in New Mexico. So they must have traveled. I don't know, that guy that was at the end, the crazy guy, that's the guy's dad, saying that they're just
settlers or like pioneers. That's not the Oregon Trail here.
What the heck is he talking about? Crazy man. So that was one of the big news article things of the week. We could kind of go into let's go into the Bob Larson. Have you heard of Bob Larson before, Adrian?
You're going to have to put a bit of Bob Larson. Yeah, okay,
yes. This is something that I was actually looking at quite a bit this week. This to me seems like a guy who's making a lot of money by scamming people. I don't know if you want to give your opinion before or after watching the video.
Let's watch him condemn himself, and then we'll add comments to the end of that.
All right, let's check this video out.
He's looking right at you, Adrian.
Leave me alone! Leave me alone! Leave me alone! No!
Hold on, pause it quick, Dalton. Pause it. How come it said dyslexia? What is it back there? It said, go back just a little bit. I'd never seen that before. Where was it? Right here. Demons of infirmity and dyslexia plagued her for years.
Isn't dyslexia like
when you can't read
words and like
sure? Yeah, I have dyslexia. Yeah,
what does that have to do with demons, though?
I'm guessing that the fact that she muddles up her worms suggests that there's a demon in her that's making her not be able to read properly, write properly. I mean, there's ways of managing it. Everybody has some dyslexic tendencies. I was a school teacher for 15 years and dealt with all manner of things. I have as an author, I've written 7 books, and I have dyslexic moments. My publisher, I don't know whether I should be discussing this on air, but I muddle up. There's things like were and where, and that little H makes all the difference. But for me, I'm blind to it. So on a Word document, you can just search for specific words, and you can go through and change them. So with modern technology, I'm sitting here claiming I'm dyslexic with all my qualifications and 7 books.
Yeah.
But you can manage it. It's not a problem anymore. Back in the day when you were trying to, I don't know if you look at my notes, but they're all in capitals. I can't write in lowercase, but that doesn't cause me any issue. That doesn't hold me back in any way, shape or form. But I'm thinking the suggestion is that if you can't read properly, or you're struggling and things are being muddled up, there's a demon interfering in that process.
1660 stuff.
That's like old-fashioned, I would think, for a guy in 2015 or whatever this came out to be talking about. That seems kind of random.
Let's see what Bob Evans does here.
Bob Larson.
Bob Larson.
Bob Evans. Isn't that a restaurant?
It's potatoes, maybe.
Brenda. Hi, Brenda. I almost died 2 years ago, and I went into the hospital. The whole time I was in the hospital, the Lord kept talking to me about going to one of your churches. I watched your video last night on Can Christian Have a Demon? And the demon of anger manifest, and I started growling and stuff, and I was praying about it. Damon.
That curse is broken.
That curse is broken. Oh, no. I don't want to.
Get up, Jezebel. Get up, Jezebel. Get up, Jezebel.
What do you think you're doing here? I want to see you free again. You again, buddy?
You're about to be cast to hell.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
but you're going to break the curse first. How many generations, Jezebel?
60.
60. Blood to Mammon? Blood to Mammon?
Indian princess.
Indian? What tribe?
Cherokee?
I deal with more Cherokee curses than any other.
The price tag on his cross.
Because of what the white man did to the Cherokee. But that's not 60 generations, Isabel. That's one. You usually speak for Mammon, Jezebel, so get up! Get up.
What do you want?
It adds to it how he has the microphone.
No, don't take me out of her. I've done so much to her.
Sink it. Help me cast this thing out now. Tell her to go.
What a Friday night that was.
Yeah, how long was that video?
Hold on, Dalton. Watch the end part quick.
It's better.
Look at this.
The lady in the back went, go.
Yeah.
Go.
I did not know. I was trying not to laugh while watching this video because it seems so far out there. And I know their exorcisms are real, but this guy seems to me like he's just taking people who have some kind of mental instability and turning into a big money thing. Because this guy's a multi-millionaire.
I've got so many notes based on that. I don't know where to start, to be honest.
Just start from the beginning.
Well, you're absolutely right. 95% of all exorcisms are classed as mental illness.
Really?
And the Vatican and the Church actually says that and comes out and says it's only a small percentage that are exorcisms. He says demons are everywhere. They're not. I think Daniel says in the New Testament there were tens and tens of thousands of angels, which gives us a figure, to work with, 10,000. They actually get given the figure. Wow. A third of those are fallen, right?
Wow.
So, if you're looking at a third, of 100,000, you're looking at 33,000 demons across the whole world. Why would they be hanging out with that woman? They would be in Liberia. They would be in war-torn zones. They'd be in Afghanistan. They'd be with famine, pestilence. They're not living with a woman in a trailer park in Arizona.
Talking about beef jerky.
What's the benefit of that?
Yeah.
So if you think about all of the exorcisms there's ever been in the history of mankind, and by the way, you can't kill a demon. The one thing he gets right is he says he's going to cast it back to hell. You can't actually kill a demon. You can only send it back to hell. Demons die in Revelation at the very end. There's a scene in the Bible where there's a crazy man in a cemetery, and the villagers have put him in the cemetery on the edge of town, and they tell Jesus, there's demons inside him. So Jesus takes the demons out of the crazy man in the cemetery, and the demons say, you can't kill us. And Jesus says, do you know who I am? And the demon says, yes, you're the Son of God, but you can't kill us. And Jesus says, yeah, you're absolutely right, I can't. And he puts them into a pig and gets the pig to run off the the cliff and into.
Adrian, do you want to clarify angels and demons and like you said, fallen angels? That's what demons.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Demons are fallen angels. They're angels that have decided to go with Satan. You've got to remember.
Could you cast a demon back to an angel, or would you have to cast them to hell again?
You're sending that to hell at that point.
A fallen angel can't become an angel again?
I've never heard of that happening. I think once you've gone to the dark side, it's difficult to turn that around. It took three films and Return of the Jedi before that took place. But so they can only be cast back, and they only die during Revelation. I was upset by the fact that he said no Christian is safe. That goes against everything I've ever read. Yeah. Because all the time in the Bible it says God is your armor. Mm-hmm. And you've got to remember that God can get rid of Satan anytime he wants. God created Satan. He created the angels. God allows Satan to exist. And so you now have to think to yourself, why does God allow Satan to exist when at any given moment he can just remove him? Mm-hmm. Well, he allows Satan to exist because it gives man a choice.
That's what I was going to say.
And it shows that, absolutely spot on. That's very perceptive of you. And so where it says God is your armor, God will protect you from evil. If you're Christian, God knows every hair on your head. You shouldn't have to worry. There should not be a fear.
Yeah.
In many respects, it shows a lack of faith that you even think a demon can come near you. Mm-hmm. I walk into buildings that are very, very haunted, that have non-human entities in them, and I show no fear at all. I mean, one day I may live to regret that statement, but so far, based on my career, and it's been extensive, and I've been to some of the most possessed and haunted buildings all over the world. You know, I feel genuinely that with my faith I can walk through the gates of Hades and not get scorched. That goes against everything I've ever learned in the Bible on a very basic level. Do you remember the story where God comes to Moses and says, you need to go to the pharaohs and show them there's only one God? Mm-hmm. And Moses says, well, how am I going to do that? They were not going to believe me. Yeah. And he says, well, throw your staff on the floor and it will turn into a snake. So he does that. Well, the Pharaoh says, well, we have witches that can do that. So the witches throw their staffs on the floor and they get turned into snakes. And the one that Moses had eats all the rest. So just in that story alone, that shows that good will always overcome evil. So what he's preaching isn't what I've read. That's not been my experience.
Have you been attacked, Adrian, on your... Have you been attacked or have scars or anything?
Oh, we talked about that last
time. I did talk about that.
I have been attacked. I've seen maybe 3 non-human demonic entities in my entire career. They are incredibly rare. They're so rare. Bearing in mind, I did 30 investigations last year. And you're right at the beginning where you said there's a difference between ghosts and demonic entities. Ghosts are you and me, but dead. Yeah, we're not evil by default. We're the same people we are, but we just don't have a physical body. Demonic entities, obviously, fallen angels, non-human. Angels, if you read about them, you can't be a righteous man and become an angel. It's not going to happen. When people say, oh, he's dead now, he's going to be an angel, that's not going to happen. Angels are extraterrestrial. They were made by God. They're androgynous. They're not male. They're not female. You don't hear the word son of angel, do you? No. You hear son of man. So there's parts of the Bible as well. Daniel, again, he's come up a couple of times tonight, actually describes them as being sort of 12 foot tall and shimmering in armor like topaz. You know, you wouldn't want to mess with one. No. So on the back of that, you know, you've got to remember these are extraterrestrial in the sense that they're not alien as such, but they're not from this earth. Yeah. They've been created in the heavens, remember?
What do you think about him hitting the woman with the Bible, smacking her in the back, putting the cross against her head pretty hard, like using these things in like almost like a physical... is that something that an exorcist would actually, like, you would normally do?
No.
I was saying that seems very crazy to whack somebody with a Bible.
I've been involved with exorcisms. Yeah, it's not. It doesn't look like that. It doesn't feel like that. No. You've got to remember as well that the cross is just a symbol. Yeah. It doesn't represent a great deal except what you're projecting onto it. If you remember, the cross or the symbol of the cross is recent. How were they blessing people and getting rid of demons in the Old Testament? Because the cross didn't exist then. Yeah, true. The cross only existed when Jesus was crucified. Yeah. So the whole of the Old Testament, they were blessing people and removing spirits and doing those kinds of things without the cross. I don't see the cross as being intrinsic to what he's doing. It's a fairly recent thing, and they were doing that in the Old Testament.
That's a good point.
Before the cross was even...
It was a torture mechanism.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Well, to me, it seems like a show. Everything about it seemed like a show. I don't know what's wrong with the lady, honestly. Seems pretty crazy. But
I think some of them... The only thing I would add to that is I think some of those individuals need that. If you're suffering with alcoholism, if you've got mental illnesses, if you're genuinely hearing voices from a sort of schizophrenic perspective, she actually may need that.
Need some help.
As a way to kind of get that out of her system.
So if it helps her, yeah.
I'm not saying she's possessed, but I'm saying that kind of placebo effect may actually help.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
She thinks that after this is done, there's some kind of change.
That's right.
It's all in her head. There's probably nothing actually going on.
That's a positive from it.
It is, yeah. But the sad part about this is the millions of dollars this guy's made.
Right. The book pops up right now.
He's made a lot of money. He does 20 of these a month, and usually at one event there's 5 or 6 people that get exercised. Right. Do the math. That's hundreds of people getting exercised a year. And this guy's finding all of them when the Catholic Church even says it's hardly ever done. Very rare.
Very rarely. And
very
there's no fight involved. If you've got God as your armor, I can just go up to them and say, demon be gone. There's no fight. I'm not having to beat the woman. There's no physicality taking place.
Take the Bible and smack her over the head with it.
Everything I've said in the last 10 minutes suggests that when I walk into a room, they go. I've been out to historic buildings, and I've been to private residencies where they say they have demonic entities. Well, that's arranged a week beforehand. I'll see you next Friday type scenario.
Yeah.
By the time I've got there, that entity's gone.
Really?
Because it knows we're coming, and why would you stick around to get your ass kicked? What progressively I've had to do over the years is just seal the building to stop it getting back in after I've left.
Really?
Why would you hang around?
Yeah.
They know I'm coming.
Yeah.
And not that I've got any special powers. Anyone, we're all God's children. We can all remove demons. You don't have to have any training.
Oh, really?
Absolutely not. And so I would go in there, and as I said, there's nothing special about what I do. Anyone can do that. But they've long gone by the time I get there. I've not had a good fight in ages. It just doesn't happen. They why would you hang around?
Yeah, I don't know.
You vacate the building. You know I'm coming. What they can do, and what I've struggled with in the past, is that they will try and stop me getting there. So on the way there, I'll get a flat tire. I've been stung by a wasp that came through the window of the car. My satellite GPS system isn't working. They will put everything in your path to try and stop you from getting there. But it's fairly low-level stuff.
Yeah.
You end up saying, is that all you've got? Is that the best you can do?
Yeah, dang. Well, we're going to take a little bit of a break here, and this is super interesting to me. We'll be right back and get right back into it, so keep watching. Welcome back to the Clerc podcast show. We are here with Adrian Lee, Damon Weinandt, and Mason Leopold. We have been talking about a lot of different things, from demonic possession to 11 kids out in the desert. We were just watching a Bob Larson video, Who's an Exorcist, however you want to put it. It's very interesting there. It looked like a show to me. Adrian kind of said that it was a little overdone too. A lot of the things he was doing were kind of...
Yeah, it's not that he's quoting the Bible, but that's not the book I've read.
Yeah, it was very kind of showy for him to draw a lot of people, draw big crowds, and it seemed to me like a big money pit right there. Right now, Adrian actually brought his ghost box, and I don't know the technical terms for any of this stuff. If you kind of want to explain what's going to happen here and what you kind of think or some of this equipment is.
People that are familiar with the paranormal shows will recognize this instantly. These come in many different designs. It's a ghost box, a spirit box. This is a shack hack. It's a radio that scans AM and FM frequencies very quickly.
Oh, gotcha.
So you're providing the spirit with a voice, because obviously in spirit there's no physicality.
Yeah.
So the idea is that this scans AM and FM frequencies very quickly, and it's almost like an electronic Ouija board, I guess. Oh. But I do want to say that I would never do a Ouija board, because on a Ouija board, you're asking the spirit to come through you to move the planchette.
Gotcha.
This isn't coming through me, it's coming through the equipment. So let's make that clear.
Yep.
But people have described it as an electronic Ouija board, but one that would be safe in terms of it not coming near me. I'm not asking anything to come into me to possess me in any way, shape or form. So it's going to scan. What you're going to hear when we turn this on is the scanning process.
Okay.
So you're going to hear and that's the process of it constantly on a loop.
Interesting.
We're going to pick up a lot of rubbish from the radio. So you might hear 15% off mattresses, I-94 closed in both directions, things like that. What I'm listening for and what I'm looking for is the kind of voices, disembodied voices coming through the white noise underneath.
Oh, gotcha.
So that's what I'm hoping for. We may spend the next 5 minutes listening to mattress ads and how the twins are doing at the moment. But hopefully, if we turn this on, this is a very haunted building. It was built in the 1930s. Yeah. I've investigated here many times. The Bark Centre is in my book, Mysterious Midwest. There's a lot of children, as you would expect, in a school. Now, I'm not saying children died here, but if when you pass, your favourite time was when you were running around at school with your friends, then in spirit, you've got the entire building to run around in. Wow. It's empty for 95% of the day. It's not, upstairs. I mean, when do people go upstairs? So you've got the whole building to play around in. And my experience of this particular location is lots of kids running around. There are certain people that came through and spoke to me. There was a janitor, a custodian in the 1960s called Bob Underwood, and he came through and we had a good conversation with him. And there was a child in room 206 called Michael, and I had a conversation with him as well. But we're going to turn it on. We're going to see what comes along. If nothing happens, I'm going to sit here.
Is it on right now?
Focus, Mason.
Hold on, what's that noise?
Yeah, there's nothing taking place at the moment.
Did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
What is that?
I think we're just building up a lot of energy. I think, things, I don't know whether you caught it, but things were moving around behind us when we first started the show.
Yeah. Well, what is it? It's like
I heard that, yeah.
No, it's going on right now. Shh. I hear crickets. Is that crickets?
No, Mason's focusing. I told him to focus and it made a noise.
It just stopped. I don't know.
Here we go.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
We are building up a lot of energy. Yep. We're talking about spirits. They know we're here. Like I said to you before, the demonic entities know I'm arriving. Well, before I got here today, they would be aware that we've made this arrangement and I'm coming here. Wow. So if there's people wanting to come through and talk, they may be a line of people behind me, and whoever shouts the loudest comes through is what's going to happen.
And for people who are listening, right before we started recording the second half here, we actually picked up somebody saying Michael.
Absolutely.
And the weird thing is, you heard it, I heard it
too.
I heard it.
On his notebook, he has Michael written down.
And there's 3 mattresses staring me in the face, and we heard mattress.
Well, Michael was one of the students that I spoke to here.
That's crazy. Michael's written down on Adrian's notebook.
I'm good at what I do.
And you had that written down before you came in this room, is that correct?
Yeah, I was hoping he'd come through and talk to me.
Oh my gosh.
I turned on the device to see how the sound levels were.
And we heard Michael.
And Michael comes through, and we all heard that.
I just feel like a really weird presence in here. Like it's...
He's a believer because we're focusing. Focus, man. Focus.
We could do with getting a few cold spots, to be honest, couldn't we?
It's really weird.
I wish we could have a cold spot right now.
I'm going to blow a cold spot.
Well, if you're willing to give me 5 minutes and we'll see what comes. If nothing happens, then we'll move on. But if someone's talking in spirit, we'll keep going.
Let's get it going. So everyone listening, we're about to get into this, and you'll hear the thing come on. Right?
I know what I'm thinking about.
The benefit of this as well is that when you're listening to this on YouTube, you can keep going back and listening. I don't have the benefit of going back to hear what it says.
Okay.
So we may miss a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
The retrospectively we then pick up, we'll miss 50% of what this says.
And me, Damon, and Mason are going to be quiet while you're doing this, unless you you pause it until you pause it.
Well, one of your deceased relatives might come through.
Oh my
I mean, your great grandmother might come through. So it might be that you all have spirits with us.
Yeah, I just don't want people to think that we're like whispering. Adding noises or whatever. Everything here you're about to hear is unedited. This is actually what happens. I don't want anyone to think we're faking this. So
now we've talked it up. You know nothing's going to happen. Right?
All right, here we go. Let's get her going.
Yeah, my name's Adrian. I've investigated here many times before. I'm an author. I write about the ghosts and the hauntings and the history of Wyndham. You may remember I was here before. If you want to come through and have a chat with me, I'd like to meet you. I'd like to know who you are. I'm not here to take you away. I'm not here to cause you issue. It's fabulous that you're here with us tonight. I just want to find out a little bit about who you are, because I want to do some research and I want to find out about your life. So if you'd like to come through and talk, the first thing I'd like you to do for me is to give me your name. So can you shout your name out nice and clearly for me, please? There's things going on in the background there. I can hear voices, but I'm going to ask for something specific. I did say there might be a lot of people shouting to get through, so let's just take this a little further then. Could you give me your name, please? Nice and loudly, nice and clear. I'd like to know who wants to talk to me tonight. Who's here with me?
Was perfect.
Someone said was perfect. So whether they're trying to talk and they're getting an idea of that, but I'm going to keep going with the name. Could you tell me your name? I'm Adrian. I'm happy to chat with you tonight. Perhaps you've spoken to me before. Can you shout your name out nice and clearly, please?
JK delivered.
There was two things went on there. Mike was the first one, and then someone said Jake, and I think that was some sort of commentary on a sports show.
Yeah, it was JK.
So there was a Jake there. So let me try and clarify that, because at the moment this sounds a little random, but if I say, can you say that again, that takes that element of randomness out.
True.
I thought you said Jake or Mike, so either one. I'm happy to talk to either. Could you give me that again? Can you tell me that again so I get that right for you? Someone said no.
Yeah, I said no.
I heard no too.
We were just picking up the Twins game before. Now he said no.
I heard no. Yeah.
And if you go back and listen, they might have said Adrian's name at the very beginning.
Could you shout your name out for me so I know you're here? Let's try with the Michael again, because we had that earlier.
Yeah.
Do you prefer being called Mike or Michael? What would you prefer? I think they said Michael, but I'm going to have to go back and listen to that on YouTube. But we'll try again. Do you prefer being called Mike or Michael? There was a Mike in there, and I'm gonna go for a third, so people don't think that this is just random. Okay. If you prefer Mike, can you say Mike again, or just say yes to that? Can you say yes if your name is Mike? There were some bits and pieces in there. Let me just change tact and we'll go down different roads. Mike, can you tell me how many people are in spirit in this room watching us at the moment? Can you shout a number out for me? How many people in spirit are here? 11. 11 wow. Spirits. How out of those 11, how many are male? Could you tell me how many are male out of those 11? 2.
I heard 2.
Yeah. So I'm guessing there's 9 female.
That's the most females we've had on the podcast.
Are you all right? He's crying.
I like it. I like it, man.
The thing you've got to remember, it's you and me, but dead. They're not going to cause us any issue. They're kids.
Really Mason's fresh, so they're like attaching to him.
Yeah, jeez.
Can you see us at the moment? Yes or no? Can you actually see us? Someone said great, followed by what's up.
What's up?
Can you actually see us at the moment?
I heard what's up.
I heard yes.
Yes. Could you tell us the colour of his shirt? I'm pointing at the moment. What colour is his shirt? Could you tell us? If you can see us, you should be able to tell us the colour of his shirt. It said white.
It was kind of in there. It was kind of in there.
Can you give me that again? Because there'll be people at home that don't think this is happening. Could you tell me again? Just give me the colour again of his shirt for me to prove that you can see us.
I was right there.
White.
I heard it.
So we've got 11 spirits in the room. 9 are female, 2 are male. I'm guessing they're children, and I prefaced that before. And they can see us. They actually said they could see us. And twice they've said that his shirt...
Can we ask one of the girls' names out
Absolutely,
of all of them?
Of course you can, yeah.
Let's do
Could
that.
one of the ladies, one of the girls step forward and give me her name? Could she shout her name out for me, please?
Savings account.
I heard little girl.
There was some radio in there. Let's go for that again. I'd like one of the female spirits to step forward and tell me their name. There was definitely something in there that began with a G, like a Gretchen or a Gertrude, something like that. Let me ask one more time.
With a G too.
Yeah. Let's. Could that lady shout her name out? I need nice, clear, loud responses, please.
A long time.
Gil.
Jill.
Jill or Gil.
Yeah. Could you just confirm that? Give me a yes or a no. Is your name Jill? Do you prefer Jill or Gillian? That sounded like Gillian, but I'll go again. Do you prefer Jill or Gillian?
thought I heard Jill.
I thought I heard Jill.
Okay, we're missing 50% of this, and we have the benefit of playing this back. Can you tell me how old you are, Jill? How old are you? I thought there was a number at the beginning, but I'm not going to say it. I want to ask again.
I thought I heard 13 too.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Could you tell me how old you are, Jill? One more. Could you tell me how old you are, Jill?
I heard 13. I heard 13 loud and clear.
And it was in a young girl's voice,
it
right?
Was, yeah.
That was really loud and clear.
That was clear.
In a young lady's voice. Could you tell me, Jill, who the president is at the moment? Who do you think the president is?
And
3 or 4 things were said.
Yeah.
Could you tell me?
Know.
And for people, just one second, Adrian, for people who are listening, this might be kind of hard to hear because there's so many things going on.
Yeah.
But if you can kind of think in your head, if you can kind of get by all this stuff going on, you can hear you can hear clearly there's someone talking. Really and it's not coming through the radio. It's not coming from the Twins
I've written entire books on interviewing dead people.
It's weird.
They tell me history that I hadn't previously lost to the knowledge of man, and I go and research it. We'll ask Jill for her last name in a minute. And then tomorrow we'll go to the Historical Society and see if we can find her in the school book, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah, that'd be crazy.
We'll find a picture of her, is what we want to happen, right?
Yeah.
Jill, could you tell me who the president is at the moment? I thought they said Eisenhower. I'm going to go again. If you play that back, I swear that said Eisenhower.
Let me hear it one more time.
I heard Eisen.
Bearing in mind I'm not from this country, behind me you might want to look up when Eisenhower was president. It was directly after the Second World War, right?
Let me look when Eisenhower was president.
So could you tell me again who the president is? Said Eisenhower again.
I heard Eisen.
He tried to get it out.
I'd also accept Nixon in there, maybe, if you re-listen.
Well, let's ask. I'm going to ask her for the year.
Okay, I was going to say, I have the year right here.
Yeah, go. When was Eisenhower? 19?
It was 53.
53. Okay.
Oh, wait, that's, 34th president, 53 to 61.
Okay.
Is that around the same time then?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The Bark was open at that time, yeah.
Yeah, I think it closed. Well, you're testing my memory now, but I want to say like early 90s, something like that.
Yeah.
Damon went here. He was in the last class.
8th grade, yeah, something like that. So it must have been 90, 89, something like that.
Sure. Wow. Yeah. Could you tell me the year that you graduated? So I'm going to say 19. What I need you to do for me is step in and shout the last 2 numbers. So if I say 19 and it was 54, you shout 54, for example. So can you tell me the year you graduated, Jill? 19 what? Someone said something with a 3 in it. Could you tell me, Jill, the year you graduated? 19... 19 what?
I heard 14 a couple times.
I just keep hearing 19, like they can't finish it.
Sure.
Maybe they're confused by the question.
Yeah, someone said wait. Let me do that one more, and then I'll go through some dates. Could you tell me the year you graduated? 19 what? Was it the 1950s? Yes or no? I thought someone said sounds good at the beginning, but we'd have to go back and re-listen to that. Could you tell me, did you graduate in the 1950s, yes or no?
Someone yelled yes.
There was 3 or 4 yeses.
Yeah, I
heard
yes
there
twice.
Was a yes, and then right at the end, a male voice went yes. I'm assuming they all graduated in the same year.
And Eisenhower was, what was it again, 53 to 61.
So that would fit. So I'm guessing it wouldn't take too long to go to the Historical Society and go through the yearbooks from 53 to 59. Wouldn't take that long if you're looking just at the graduation year. Do you see what I mean?
You think we'd find like a Jill and a Michael?
Oh, I guarantee.
And if you look, I've heard Gail and felt like Gail. So if there's there too,
Jill or Gail.
Yeah.
Let's ask for a last name, and then that will put us in where we need to be. Before we go, could you give us your last name so we can look you up and find out a little about who you are? What was your last name? Could you tell me, nice, loud, clear responses, what was your last name?
I'm getting a Kurt something.
There's a lot.
I heard a girl, but I couldn't make out what she's saying.
Kurt.
I think we're struggling with the fact that 4 or 5. There's 11 people shouting now, right? So that's what I'm struggling with.
Maybe ask Jill specifically.
Yeah,
or
Jill.
Michael.
I just want Jill to
Look at
come
you, Mason,
through.
go.
Yeah.
Could you tell me your last
know.
name? Jill, what's your last name?
I heard something in the beginning.
There's a lot going on there. It wouldn't take too long to find a Jill from that
grab a yearbook and
time period.
Yeah,
and we can, when we find the information, which is what I do for a living, I can come back, find out who she is, maybe get some family members here and go again, right? So you do a follow-up investigation once you've done the research and come back with the knowledge. One last thing before we finish. Would you like to say goodbye to us? I appreciate you talking to me tonight, and I really I'm grateful for you to come through. Would you say goodbye to me before
Maybe directly to Mason.
Before we leave? Can you say goodbye to me? Just a goodbye and we'll finish for the night. If you can say goodbye to me, I'd be very grateful.
There's Michael.
Michael
again. In there.
If you're willing for me just to go on for another minute, Michael's come through again.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, get Michael in here.
Michael, I talked to you in room 206 a few years ago. Do you remember me, yes or no?
I heard yes.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. So the lad, Michael, I spoke to 7 or 8 years ago that was in this book that I researched in room 206, is still here. And he's been saying his name all through the evening, and we've just captured it in a really good one, actually.
You have his last name?
I don't, unfortunately. No, we can ask that. I because he's a child, and because I was a school teacher for so many years, we played a game where I counted, and then he added the number that comes next, like you'd do with a group of children. So if you're happy to entertain the idea.
Oh, yeah.
Michael, I'm going to count, and I need you to say the number that comes next. We're going to play a little game. So I'm going to count. When I stop counting, can you tell me the number that comes next? And that would be fabulous. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, I heard 6.
I heard 6.
I heard 6. Yeah.
Now that's
6 a few times.
That's stimulus and response, right?
Yeah.
Let's play another one. I'm going to go through the alphabet, Michael, and I really appreciate what you're doing for me here, and we'll have some fun with this. I'm going to go through the alphabet and just jump in and give me the letter that comes next, if you know your alphabet. So it's the same in Britain as it is in America, despite the fact we're metric. So A, B, C, D, E.
Oh my gosh.
F.
I heard F right away.
So he knows his alphabet.
Son of a gun.
So
this is weird, Adrian. I'm not gonna lie. I've seen a lot of weird stuff, but this is weird.
Well, it's talking to a child that's been dead for 50 years. He knows his alphabet and his numbers. Would you like to ask him anything? I mean, you've got a chance to talk to a
Mason
ghost.
gets to.
I gotta ask him something.
Yo.
I do this for a living, and I've done this for 25 years all over the world. So this is.
And I just want people to, like, people know me. I'm a very skeptical guy, and I'm hearing stuff here. And you know that I question everything, and I'm hearing stuff, and I don't want it to be like I'm just all hyped up that Adrian's here or something. I'm actually hearing things, and if no one at home is hearing it, maybe I'm crazy, but everyone here, I think we've all heard.
Absolutely.
We've all heard stuff. So.
We'll go back and listen to this, and you will be able. I'm sure you can enhance the sound and do things.
Listen to this a few times.
You know, you'll hear the one where he came through and said Michael couldn't have been clearer. It's like he's in the room.
It was really clear.
And that was the second or third time, and I've got him written down on my notepad. If nothing happened tonight,
that's weird.
I wanted to be prepared with names of ghosts I've already spoken to in this building, that I could say, hi, it's Adrian, can you come through? And he preempted me. He came through before I even asked.
That's weird.
So if there's anything you want to...
You got a question for us?
Just ask him what his last name is if you can.
Sure. Michael, can you tell me your last name?
Fourth and a 1-1.
What's your last name, Michael? Could you give me your last name?
I heard something I didn't know what it was.
Again, we'll benefit from... We'll play this back and we'll be able to
be nice to
access
be able to play
that. Let me do one more. Michael, what's your last name? Can you tell me your last name?
Yeah.
You're not in trouble. You're not, going to get into trouble. I know when teachers ask you for your last name, it normally means you've broken a window or done something naughty, but you're not. We just want to find out who you are, and maybe we could give a message to your family if we.
I think I heard something. If you want to ask it, is it Glidden? I think I heard Glidden. Okay. I don't know. That was one thing I thought.
Sure.
I heard.
Can you tell me your last name, nice and clear? Shout it out for me. It was close to that, wasn't it?
It sounded something like
we'll play those back and we'll...
I want to know if Mason is going to be visited again now that he's hearing this. Is that something we can ask?
Ghosts and spirits are around us all the time.
Yeah,
whether you see them or not is up to the individual. But, you will have your great-grandparents with you, people that have deceased. Right. You've got a family of 10 or 15 people behind you that comes with your team. I've got 15 people standing behind me, all with a big A on their shirt, that are supporting me and looking to help me out. Yeah. And the same will be with all of us. That's what happens and has been my experience. But I don't know if anyone around the room...
Know what your experience, Mason.
I talk to ghosts day in, day out. I'm a psychic. I do readings. I write about them. I read about them. I talk to them. I have discussions with them. I do this for a living. If there's anything you've ever wanted to ask a ghost, now would be a really good time to jump in and ask some questions if you want to.
I just want to know, why they choose this place to just,
Because he said it's a school where they...
I know, but,
I can ask them. I'll ask the question.
Okay, why not at their home to visit,
Well, they're not trapped here. They're probably going between lots of different places in the same way that you've probably visited 10 different places today yourself. Do you see what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
But I will ask them the question without preempting an answer. Michael, could you tell me why you like being here? Why are you here? Could you give me a reason? Michael, why do you reside here? Why do you like being here?
I heard podcasts.
He did say something.
The first time I really thought I heard podcasts.
It's the podcast.
Does he know what a podcast is?
The ghosts and spirits here. So if there's any ghost that can press the like button, that would be fabulous.
There we go.
Couple times.
Win yourself a T-shirt.
At least 11.
Roaming
We got 11 likes at least.
Yeah.
Now, can they gather enough energy in the room to move something a little bit?
It's possible.
Can you just ask if you can move this?
That's going to be an incredibly difficult task, and I would be surprised.
Because on the first episode when Adrian was here, he showed us a video where an apple was knocked off of something. It was in a barn or it was something. So they can do that.
Let me just what they might not want to do is to penetrate where we're sitting and come through us to get to that. So I'm actually going to say anything in the room or a banging noise, something like that. Okay.
Just hit on something.
That's right. If you're with us in the room. And I'm not going to turn this on. I'm going to let them do this on their own accord. But if you're in the room with us, it was said to us that there was 11 ghosts, 11 spirits in the room. Could one of those spirits knock something over? Can they bang on the wall, jump up and down, or make a noise? Could you do that for us, please? This is great radio, isn't it? Sat here in silence. Let's do that one more, and we'll leave a gap of about 20, 30 seconds, and I'm sure our listeners won't mind us indulging in this process.
Yeah.
If you're here listening to us and watching us at the moment, we already know that you can see us. Could you make a noise? Could you make a tapping, bang on a wall, jump up and down? Anything you can do to make us aware that you're here. Can you do that now for me, please? Could you make a noise in the corridor? Could you jump up and down, scream, bang the walls, flick Ethan's ear? Anytime during the rest of this podcast, if you want to move something around, we'll be listening. What you've highlighted there is the frustration of a paranormal investigator, because we get all the information come through, lots of stuff's happening, and then all of a sudden, nothing. And very rarely do they do things on command. But as you've said before, I have had things thrown at me. I've got video footage of poltergeist activity. Wow. It takes a lot of energy to move things around, and we have devices that we set up in rooms to try and make that happen. We have tools that pump the room full of electrical magnetic fields so they can kind
I've seen that.
And to kind of play devil's advocate, because I know people are going to do it. They're going to say that we're hearing this stuff on the radio because you're scanning channels and you're picking up words that the people are saying. How do you respond to that?
I think we've done enough there to suggest that it's stimulus and response. Because when I say, do you prefer being called Mike or Michael? And he says Mike. When I say, you know, how many are here? 11.
Yeah.
Well, how many of that 11, you know, are men? And it then says 2.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
what you're removing is the randomness. So I've done this long enough to realise that people will say that. And that's fine. People don't have to believe, you know, what we're doing. I'm not here to prove this one way or another. But my line of questioning leads me in a direction that I'm trying to get everything backed up 3 or 4 times in a very subtle way, that randomness is then removed. Okay, you might get the number 11 come through. But then what's the chances after that of getting 9 and then me saying, so there's, you know, this many boys here, then getting a yes. I asked 3 or 4 times for Jill to give us her name and she said it 3 or 4 times. I think I even asked her at one point, does she prefer Jill or Gillian? So we're trying to ask as many questions as possible to remove that element of randomness. If we just sat here and it said 11 and that's all we've got, that's not evidence. No, I 100% agree with you. What is now a body of evidence is the last 25 minutes of having a stimulus and response conversation with a dead person where we're actually getting answers like you're interviewing me now, right? Is what's taking place. So I'm hoping that way of doing things would remove the
and it
element.
might be a gateway. If someone else heard something else, it's fun to go now to the Stroke Society research, and maybe it's a pathway to something else that these people are telling us to go find more information on something that we run across, and there's no way we would have went to the Stroke Society and looked up that stuff unless we were doing this.
I guarantee that we'll find her. I mean, I make a living writing books about dead people coming through, telling me about who they are, then giving me the history of the building that's been lost to the knowledge of man. I've been given specific dates, and I go and look those dates up in the newspapers, and there they are, and they died on that day, and they presented that information to me that had been lost to the knowledge of man. That's a very difficult thing to argue with if you don't believe in ghosts and spirits. Because I don't know who these people are.
This is going to be a fun one for you to go back and do and edit.
I guarantee we've missed 50%. I know from going back over my evidence that we've missed 50%. And you'll hear stuff and you think, how did everyone in the room miss that? It seems so obvious, but that's what's happened. I'm just going to ask them to say good night because I'm determined to get a good night out of them. And then we'll I know I've overtaken your show.
No, not at all.
Could you just give me a good night and we will leave you alone, and we promise we'll go and look you up and we'll perhaps have some answers. Can you give me a nice big good night for me? 13. Can you give me a good night?
I thought I heard a girl say goodnight.
I'm sure it said goodnight, and there was a child's voice. Let's do one more. Could you say goodnight for me again, please?
I thought I heard a little girl say goodnight, but at the end of the last one, I heard a girl. Night. Like it was weird. It was weird.
Really faint.
And we'll have the opportunity, of course, to go back and listen to that again.
Oh my God!
You've got to remember, this is one device.
Yeah.
When I do a paranormal investigation, I have hundreds of devices.
Really?
So when you suddenly have a device that measures the energy in the room, so the energy goes up the moment the device comes on. We've got maybe a change in temperature. You're pooling from lots of different places 6 or 7 bits of empirical evidence that lead up to the whole. So that sits on its own as one piece of evidence. But on a paranormal investigation, it would then be backed up with seeing figures walking around.
Mason had a lot of energy there. He made the turn, and then it was like energized.
Well, we've got thermal imaging cameras.
What is that right there? Oh, Dalton. All right, we are going to take another break, and we'll be back. And at the final part, we're going to do one more part because it seems like we have more stuff. We didn't cover everything. We're going to do one more part. When we come back, we're going to do a little bit of a tarot card reading here with Mason. Adrian brought his, is it tarot or tarot?
It is tarot, absolutely.
Tarot cards. So we'll be right back, and we'll do that. Welcome back to the Clerc podcast show. This is the third part. We always go over with Adrian because we got so much stuff to talk about.
And I talk a lot.
Yeah, well, that's totally fine. People are interested in what you have to say, and this has been really good so far. We're going to watch a quick video here, and then we're going to go into the tarot card reading. So let's, it's the Gary, Indiana Demon House video. This is very interesting to me.
Perhaps even more disturbing tonight, a report out of Indiana. You may have seen this on The Factor. Wait until you hear where we're taking the story. The reports suggest that demons took over a family and their home. And Trace Gallagher has the details. Trace?
And Megan, the comparisons to the Amityville are notable because it was just days after the Ammon family moved into their house, they say the horror began. The black flies swarming, children being levitated, shadowy figures pacing the house. Here's the mother. Listen.
And I saw one like coming into full image. It was coming out of my closet. I've never seen it like that before. I would see the shadows, you know, but I've never seen it like how I'm looking at you and you're looking at me.
The family sought help, but between the horror stories, the kids missing school and being injured, the family doctor and child services got involved, with child services pointing the finger at mom, writing, quote, they believe the mother may have mental health concerns. They believe the children are performing for the mother and that she's encouraging the behavior. Then child services witnessed something that changed their view. The 9-year-old boy thrown against the wall with no one touching him. Then they write, quote, he had a weird grin on his face and began to walk backwards while the grandmother was holding his hand. He walked up the wall backwards. He flipped over and landed on his feet in front of the grandmother and sat down in the chair. Police also thought the story was a hoax until they went to the house and saw blinds dripping with oil and water where there was no source, and a mysterious figure in a window when no one was home. 37-year police veteran Captain Charles Austin saying, quote, every one of us who was there that day in the basement and who saw what we saw, we all think the same. We call it the same. That bit of dirt is a portal to hell.
Now, I didn't, when I first started watching this, I didn't believe any of it. But when child services is coming, the police department's there, and everyone's saying the same thing, I thought this is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. You know, walking up a wall backwards and stuff like that, just unreal. But if there's government people that are coming, would have no reason to make a story up.
No reason to lie.
Huh?
No reason to like.
There is no reason to lie. They're there to get the mom, and then they come out and they have stories like this. I don't know what you think, Adrian, but to me,
they do exist. I mean, biblical evil exists in the same way that biblical good exists. It does exist. The photograph at the end looked like an iPhone app where you can put a ghost.
That looked fake.
So the problem I have is that I suspect some of it is true, and then they've embellished with things over the top. I'm trying to work out what the demonic entity actually did that was evil, because all I got from that was they came out of the closet, there were shadows, there was some flies, and the boy walked up the wall.
Was the boy, the end of it, we didn't watch the whole thing, the end of it talks about they had a Catholic priest come and do an exorcism on the boy because he was possessed by a demon. And there's an interview, I didn't include it all because it's about a 10-minute thing. The priest talks about how he'd never seen anything like it before. He performed an exorcism and thought that the boy was clear after that.
The only other thing I would add to that, and I've no reason to disbelieve them, I'm not here to pick their story apart. Most of the local pastors would have never seen anything like this before. I guarantee I've had more experiences in my career than the pastor in the local church here.
Oh, yeah.
So if you go to him and say, I'm seeing ghosts, what experience do they have of that? What are they drawing from? You know, unless they studied that, you know, during their theology degree and so forth.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. A lot of people come to me because the local pastor doesn't have that information, and that's not a criticism of the pastor. I mean, when in a small town in the Midwest,
it's rare.
That's
to
right.
find,
Where are they going to have exposure to that?
Yeah.
So for the pastor to stay at the end, perhaps he's never seen anything like that. Well, has he ever seen anything similar to that? I mean, that's probably the first thing he's ever seen, and that's no disrespect to that gentleman because obviously they just don't have exposure. To those things, that's where we are.
Until you meet them firsthand, you never really know.
And then this is the captain of the police department in Gary, Indiana. That bit of dirt is a portal to hell.
Have you ever been to Gary, Indiana?
I have, yeah. This house is burned down.
The whole town. I shouldn't say that.
Yeah, the whole town. The whole town is a pile of dirt. It's a crap. It's a trash.
They
burnt the house down.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. No one wanted. They didn't want anyone.
Well, now
moving
they've
in there.
released all the spirits.
Tom Sawyer. Tom Sawyer's from there, though, right? I mean, like Mark Twain.
Yeah. Yep.
Mark Twain.
Yep.
Gary,
Yep. Well, Gary, Indiana used to be.
This
is a whole other topic, but Gary, Indiana used to be a thriving town. Now it's just a trash.
I remember
hole.
going there.
Yeah.
What's very interesting is there are some states around America where it's actually the law that if your house is haunted, the realtor has to tell you that the house is haunted.
Oh, really?
Absolutely, 100%. Wow. That's not the case in Minnesota, but there are many states that now require you to disclaim that the house is haunted if you're trying to sell it.
Who gets to pick the house? They have a special guy come?
I'm guessing the owner.
Haunted.
Would that mean / like a murder happened in there too, or a suicide?
Yes, they have to declare.
I've heard about that before, yeah.
But certainly haunted, that the person that's selling the house has to...
Wow.
What will happen is if you buy the house and then haunted things happen, you could then sue the person that sold it to you for saying, well, you didn't say anything about it.
Oh my gosh.
But the point I'm lumbering towards is the fact that surely the government is saying at that point that ghosts exist.
Yeah.
Otherwise that law wouldn't be in place, would it? Do you see what I mean?
That's weird.
If ghosts didn't exist, why are you required to say that by law?
Yeah,
so we're in a
weird.
very interesting situation at that point.
Yeah. Well, dang, I just had to bring that up because I thought it was weird. One of the only videos where I'm like, well, this is actually really creepy, really weird. I don't know how much of it is 100% truth, like you said. Some of it might be over exaggerated.
I think it's been embellished, but I think there's a grain of truth in there for sure.
It's a scary thing, but we can get into the tarot card reading here. I've never seen this before, so it's very interesting. I don't know if you've ever seen it before.
At the State Fair once he did it.
Really?
Yeah. Quite a ways
Mason,
back.
you know anything about it?
No, I don't.
No?
Well, let me just go through this very briefly. Tarot has been around for thousands of years. This deck is a German Renaissance deck, and it was designed in 1492. So they're little German woodcut engravings by an artist called Albrecht Dürer. So originally, this was a card game.
Wow.
This is a normal deck of cards. This is 52 cards.
Oh, really?
With kings, queens, all the way from ace through to 10, and with 4 suits. And then they just added some trump cards over the top. There's nothing scary. There's nothing dark. I do this through God, and it says in Corinthians 2:1 that God bestows the gift of healing and prophecy on mankind, and we're meant to prophesy as our fellow man. Otherwise, it's blasphemous. It's a God-given gift, and Paul writes about that very, very clearly. So what I'm going to do, you have spirit guides with you. They're made up of your deceased relatives, people that have passed, that are friends, people you've never met in this lifetime that have perhaps been with you in previous lifetimes. They all want to help you. They've got a whole team behind you with a giant E on their shirt, all rooting for you.
There we go.
So the point I'm making is that nothing dark is in here, because they just want you to do well, and they want the best for you. So it's a bit Hollywood when you have all of this, oh, you're going to die.
Yeah.
Only God knows when you're going to die.
Yeah.
You know, man's thoughts aren't God's thoughts, and vice versa. So I'm going to lay a couple of cards down for everyone, if you're willing to embrace the idea, just to talk a little bit about your future. There's nothing more entertaining than shuffling cards on the radio. My dad said, never play cards with somebody who knows how to shuffle well.
That's right.
Take all
That's
your money
exactly
off you, right? So I'm just going to put a few cards down now. I'll start with you, Ethan, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put down a card for the present, so let's turn that over. That's a really good card. That is the 4. It's 0 in the deck. It's the Vagabond. It's the Wanderer.
Can I look at that?
Absolutely.
Interesting.
So the problem with that card is he's smelling the flowers. This is a hippie. He enjoys life. He's enjoys traveling. He travels all over the place. You know, he's very much not looking where he's going. So this is definitely the hippie. He's in the moment. He's really appreciating everything around him. He's looking at the clouds, looking at the trees. The problem with this, and this is a warning for you to a degree, is it's all very well being this person, and it's great, and I like being him as well. I've had the VW camper van. I've lived in the moment. You know, I've done those things. But because he's not looking forward, he has no plans. So this guy is going to be ending up, you know, living in the same house he was born in and not progressing in his life. I like to be this guy, but I want to write books.
Yeah.
And books take lots of preparation and lots of planning. So you need to find a very fine line between being the carefree, smell the flowers as I go along, enjoying life.
Yeah.
But I also want to say to you, you
That's
need to look into the future
and
plan what's happening, because all the things you want to achieve in life aren't going to happen unless you start putting intentions out there and planning what's coming next, okay? Wow. What stands over the top of that and what stops that from happening is you've overburdened yourself. You've got too many things going on. You've got too much on your shoulders, so you need to prioritize.
You
need to pick. You know, you're going to need to pick 2 or 3 things and drop the rest, because you're not moving forward because you've got too much going on. So this is a card about prioritizing. If you prioritize, drop all the things that are worrying you or concerning you, or the things that you're working on. You've spread yourself too thinly, and it's stopping you from achieving. And you need to start focusing on what it is you actually want, drawing your sword and going to get it. So let me draw a card for your future. That talks about education. They're alchemists, and they're trying to make base metals from gold. So this shows ambition. You need to show ambition in the future, but that's a card about education. So you need to learn more things. You need to be more cerebral, be more of a sponge. And whether that's a case of going to college, reading books, or being around people that you can learn from, your future involves being cerebral, learning knowledge that's going to help you to have some sense of ambition in the future.
That actually really, for people who don't know, I'm going to Mankato and stuff, and there's not much of a plan, and there's a lot of things going on right now. And so that's
you don't
weird.
know what's ahead of you.
Do you have a question for the future? I've got a whole deck of cards with your name on.
No, we better move on. But that was interesting to me. That's very cool.
Okay, we'll move around the table. Let's have a look. Lots of people are fighting over your time at the moment. People are asking lots of you. So I don't know whether it's friends, family, partner, but there's lots of people arguing over your time. So you need to decide who you spend your time with to a degree.
What's the name of that card, Adrian?
It's the Four of Swords.
There's been some debates between us and his girlfriend.
Yes, that would be one area. There's a friction, a tension between the time you're spending with each individual. What sits over that is the Ace of Wands, and that says you need to clear out all of the dead wood. So there's a sense that there's some people in your life or things you're doing in your life. You need a life's laundry. If there's clothes you've not worn for a year and they're in your closet, throw them away. Do you see what I'm saying? You're hoarding stuff. You've got too much clutter going on. You need to declutter, and then you'll be able to focus a little bit better on who you spend your
need to wash your hands.
Time with. This is true.
There you go.
In your future, it says, "Ask and you shall receive." You're not very good at asking for yourself. Whether you, this is a king and he's in a swamp and he's got no money and he's wearing sackcloths and he's asking God for money and a giant coin arrives. So you need to put some intentions out there. I don't know whether you're religious or you believe in the universe, whether you ask your great-grandmother, God, the universe, whoever it may be, you need to start asking for things. The problem you're going to have is I think that somewhere deep down inside you, there's slightly a lack of self-worth. So you don't think you're worthy of asking for things. There's a sense of guilt perhaps, or a sense that you're not worthy of receiving. You are worthy of receiving. Ask for stuff and it will happen to you and you will get those things. I would go home now and write a list of 10 things that you want in life, and in a year's time we'll come back and I bet you half of that list has been taken care of.
Just that's good advice for anybody. I think anybody should go home and write a list of 10 things.
Well, if you come to me and say, well, I wrote a list of 10 things and only 5 of them happened, I'll say that's 5 more than would have happened if you hadn't written the list.
Exactly, yeah.
Is there anything you wanted to ask specifically? I've got a whole deck of cards. I can give you an answer.
Come on, ask a question.
Never, I've put you on the spot, haven't I?
What am I going to be doing in my future? Like, can you kind of...
Well, the only thing I'm going to add to that is you've got the Ace of Cups, and that's someone in a cup that's so drunk on love, they don't know, they've got so much love, they don't know what to do with it. Your cup runneth over with love is the quote I'm going to use. So in your future, you are universally loved by everybody and everything. I bet even if you go into a stranger's house, a cat comes up to you and you can stroke the cat, and the person says the cat never goes to strangers. Do you see what I mean? So in your future,
that happened before.
You know, you are universally loved. So make the best of that and use that to your advantage. Would be my advice. There'll never be a point in your life where you're not loved. There you go.
There you go.
Oh, what do we got for Damon?
I'm gonna give it something here.
What do we got for Damon?
We have another card here that says, "Ask and you shall receive." If you're worried about finances at the moment, I think if you put the intention out there that you're going to get better finances, that will actually come. So be aware that if you ask for things for yourself, especially financially, as this is a coin card, those things will actually arrive.
Does it have to be for yourself or others too if I'm trying to raise money? And
absolutely. Yeah, just generally all round, you'll do better for asking, and you will receive that financially. One of the things you've got to realise in life, based on the next card, which is 5 of Swords, is the fact that you don't have to fight for everything in life. I think your life, every time you've had to get something in life, you've had to fight for it. Nothing's come easy to you. You've had to really make an effort on everything, right? What I'm now going to tell you is that there's some things you don't have to fight for. They just come naturally. You know, because things just fall at your feet or come to you doesn't make them less worthy of the things you've had to fight for. I bet we could write a list now of all the things that you've got going on in your life that you feel blessed about, and I bet some of them have just happened by default. Just because things fall on you and things happen by default, don't make them any less worthy.
Don't push them away.
Than the things you have to fight for. Absolutely. I think there's a danger with you that you want to have to fight for everything. And I'm now telling you, you can take your sword out of your hand. You don't have to fight anymore. Things will come to you. Do you see what I mean? You just have to rely on, have faith on the universe and the spirits around you, that they will actually provide that for you. You've got the Knight of Swords as your future. You need to be proactive. There's a lack of proactivity at the moment. So in the future, you need to draw your sword, put your armor on, go and slay the dragon and save the princess, and be proactive and go and get what it is you want and be very narrow-minded about that. But that's a card of proactivity.
I'll take that as finding a princess.
There you go.
Or slaying the dragon. Yeah, or finding a dragon or slaying the princess. The only thing I would add to this is you're wearing...
I'm fighting all the time, so I'm going to go fight. And
there you go.
Well, you are wearing a lot of armor. I said not more than a minute ago that you like the fight. And I think so many people have put that on you that you've had to fight, that you're sat here right now wearing a lot of armor. And the trouble with wearing a lot of armor is it does protect you and it does stop things from accessing you, but everything's bouncing off of you. There's no filter. So when was the last truly amazing, wonderful thing that happened to you?
Personally?
Well, the reason you're thinking about it...
I'll take that as a rhetorical question and think about it.
Because...
as not doing things for others.
Yeah, if you've got armor on, there's no filter. There's no everything.
Well, I'm very guarded. Yeah.
Right. Things are bouncing off of you, good and bad. If you can show some faith and take your armor off and make yourself vulnerable, things will happen to you that are bad. They happen to all of us. We can't control what happens to us. We can just
you'll see that heart on my sleeve again when I take the armor off.
Yeah.
Well, I have the Knight of Swords actually tattooed all the way down my arm.
Wow.
Well,
and so, if you take some armor off, you will experience good things. Good things will happen to you. But you'll also experience bad things. But that's life.
Yeah.
We can't control what happens to us. We can just control how we respond. My concern for you, based on these cards, is that if you continue to go through life feeling like you have to fight and feeling like you've got your armor on all the time, no good things will happen to you because you'll go through life feeling neither. So would you rather go through life feeling no good and no bad things, or would you rather go through life feeling good and bad things? And that's your choice. It's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all.
Yeah. Wow.
Do you have a question? Is there anything you'd like to ask about your future?
I was trying to think of a question before you pulled those cards up, but I was going to ask something on the lines of the rest of the year. I had an awesome summer, around great people, and was feeling, I'm kind of, it goes both ways, so I'm taking that into consideration.
Yeah.
But how's the rest of this year maybe going to go into the next year? Maybe, I'm on the up and up.
There's a sense of nostalgia. You need to reconcile things that happened in your past before you can move forward. So whatever it is, did you grow up too soon? Did you grow up too early and didn't have much of a childhood?
I don't want to get too personal, but I had a decent childhood. I don't know. I still like hanging on to being somewhat young, and having fun.
That's the key. That's the place I'm going to. And I'm not saying don't have fun.
Being myself.
I'm just saying that there's a sense here that you need to reconcile your childhood and just raise a glass to it. You need to
past relationships, maybe.
You need to reminisce. You need to get on your old albums. You need to listen to your Bon Jovi and your White Snake. You need to.
I did have a White Snake tape.
You need to look up old
friends. Heard him on the radio yesterday.
Just a sense of nostalgia is going to help you move forward. Looking backwards is going to help you move forwards, if that's not contradictory.
No, that's not contradictory.
Letting stuff go. It's gone.
I agree that you have to do that sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Huh. So thank you, Adrian.
Thank you, Adrian.
You owe me $20 each.
I was going to say,
hey, you want to do Dalton?
we just got grifted because we didn't ask you beforehand.
Should we do Dalton?
We can do that.
I think we should.
Got time? Everyone wants to know because Dalton's the man behind the camera here.
Dalton Bristow. Here we go.
Get on the. You want my?
Everybody wants to know about me.
Dalton, come take my seat. Do you want my seat?
One of the things you're struggling with in life is the fact that you're unhappy, but the people you surround yourself with, whether it be friends or family, don't recognise the fact. So it makes you very frustrated that the things that you're struggling with, nobody recognises. You have two choices to make. You either change the people you hang out with, or you recognise that your family are doing this to you, or you tell them. It may be that you have things, if you're unhappy with things in life, if you've not told people, they then can't help you. So your frustration might be that you just haven't told anyone, rather than laying the blame at the people that recognise the fact that you're unhappy, because people have their own lives, and let's face facts, not everybody's psychic. I would say that you've been quite, I don't want to use the word lazy necessarily, but you've kind of settled in the last year to 6 months, and God's throwing a glass of water in your face and he wants you to wake up and get back on the path. So in life, we all have moments where we kind of just rest and we don't want to do too much. Now would be a really good time to get back on the path and start going in the directions you need to go in, because you've closed your eyes, you've fallen asleep, and you're not taking advantage of what's ahead of you. So certainly an element of waking up and getting back on the path after having a moment of settling and maybe a little bit of laziness over the summer. your future has romance in it. This is Romeo and Juliet. I don't know whether you're in a relationship or not, but if you are, it's going really well, and that's the one for you, I would suggest. If you're not in a relationship, then I would keep an eye open, walking around Walmart in the next couple of months, because there's a lady there for you, and you need to...
Oh, Walmart in Worthington. What's going on?
Mitzi?
So you certainly have a lot of romance coming up in your future, I would suggest, one way or another. So just be aware of her and be proactive. If you see a lady catching your eye, then go and say hello would be my advice. There we go.
Wow, this is actually...
Go rap some game.
I don't know for everybody, but that was weird. That was kind of
really
crazy.
You hit it spot on for me.
Me too.
I'm going to take the advice, or the end of the advice.
Yeah.
Some of it was good. Yeah, it was good.
That's crazy. And now, Adrian, I have a couple questions about this. Never seen it done. Never had it done to myself or whatever. Right. Someone like you who has the cards and everything, is this something you have to get trained in for, or is this something that just comes to you on the spot?
What you would need to do is to learn each card. But if I had the book here...
Oh, there's a book you read?
Oh, absolutely. There will be a book that comes with each deck of cards.
Gotcha.
But what I would say is that if I took that card up and it comes up for you, I'm listening psychically to what the spirit guides are telling me through this card.
Oh, yeah.
If you got the same card, it might be a completely different response.
That's what I was wondering.
So yeah, you can read the book, and I do know some tarot readers that would just sit there with the book. That's meaningless. You can do that at home on your own. What I'm bringing to it as a psychic is this is the starting point for a conversation. You must have those books over here as kids where it gives you a sentence and then you fill the rest in yourself.
You finish it.
I wish I would have looked at the cards a little bit more. I felt like there's a lot of swords in there. That's very interesting.
Swords is to do with conflict, but that's inner conflict rather than fighting against... You're fighting with yourself at the moment rather than anyone else. That's the problem. You need to appreciate who you are and where you are, and the past is gone for you. You've only got the present to deal with in the future, and I just feel you're hanging on to so much in terms of conflict in the past. It's stopping you from having any sense of growth or having any sense of moving forward. You've got so much armor on, you can't move.
There are some things that everyone in general should still embrace from the past and rekindle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we all do. Yeah, I could sit here for an hour and you'd all be crying about my horror stories of my life. But the point I'm making is that the psychic... And especially, I mean, there's millions and millions of card combinations. And normally I would spread 11 cards out and it would take an hour and a half, right?
Wow.
I'm just giving you a flavour of things.
Yeah.
But two cards sitting together, I have to work out what the two mean together. And that's the psychic element.
Wow.
No book will tell you what those two cards sitting together mean. Because if there's 78 cards, you know, the statistics of laying down 11 or 9 cards and what they all mean together would be infinity almost.
Wow.
I don't know whether you're aware of this, but if you shuffle a deck of 52 cards and lay them out, you will be the first person in the history of the world to lay out those cards in that order, and that will happen every single time.
Wow.
The chances of laying out 52 cards randomly and it being the same is almost infinite.
Wow.
So I could sit here and show you a card trick and say, I'm going to show you something now that no one's ever done before in the history of mankind, and all I would do was shuffle the cards and lay them out and say, there you go, that's never been done before.
Yeah.
So that's where the skill comes, that's where the element of being psychic comes from. But you can learn this for sure.
Wow.
I teach psychic development classes. You can certainly learn how to do these things. Yeah.
That's crazy. Now, what would something like this...
Thanks, Adrian.
Were you going to ask a question?
No. We're going to ask, like, how much it costs?
No, I was... Well, if you're interested, you can ask him that quick.
How much would, like, a psychic reading cost?
It depends where I have to travel to, but if, for example, just to give you a ballpark figure, if I was doing an event or an expo, I'd probably charge you $60 for half an hour.
Oh wow!
But you know, we wouldn't cover. We would probably need an hour, and I would charge you $100 at that point. What I will say to you is, I've got friends that live in London, New York, and Los Angeles, and they will charge you $300 or $400. You've got to remember where you are. I'm in the Midwest, Minnesota. If I charge $300 for a reading, guess how many readings I'm getting?
You get
and also you've got to remember, I want to help people.
Yeah.
So if people need healing, because I'm a healer, and if people need help, I will deliver that. If you give freely, you receive freely, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so to answer your question, for me personally, based on my geographical location and where I am, it's normally around $60 for half an hour, maybe $100 for a full hour. And I have readings all week long. This is how I pay for my groceries and my mortgage.
Wow.
You don't make any money from being an author unless you're Stephen King or J.K. Rowling, because you know, authors' rates, New York authors' rates are 15%. Right? So if your book's $15, you make $1.50 from every book you sell.
Wow.
You've got to sell a lot of books to pay your mortgage every month. Is what I'm saying.
Right.
Well, what would something like this be compared to? I don't know what your thoughts are on it. A crystal ball. Is that real, fake? Is that totally different than this, or is
it's very similar. A crystal ball is just a focus. There's nothing going on in the ball. It's not like you see little people moving around. It's a focus for you to look at. So when I'm looking at the cards, I'm looking at this and I'm reading it and I'm seeing what your spirit guides want me to do. A crystal ball is just a focus. You could look at a candle. When I'm doing psychic readings and I'm accessing your great-grandmother, for example, or your sister, or whoever it may be, I would sit with a notepad here and I would doodle and make notes as I go along, and that's almost my crystal ball. I would draw. I'm a fairly good artist and I draw little pictures.
So there's nothing really special about it that would make it different or unique?
I think there's a lot of theatre involved. I do actually have a proper crystal ball, not one of these glass ones, a proper, crystal ball, and I never use it. It's just a lot to take it around. I can put these in my pocket. I don't want to be carrying it. Crystal balls are heavy, right?
Oh, yeah.
Lead crystal. Right. But ultimately, it's a focus. You're just looking, you've got something to focus at and to look into to get your third eye to work with.
And one more question about this stuff. How do you separate positive from negative when doing stuff like this? Because I'm sure there could be negative things that could come.
Well, even the negative things have a positive spin about them. The two most negative cards in the deck, certainly one would be the Tower, which talks about destruction. Whatever man makes, the good Lord can take away, like the Tower of Babel. So it's a card of destruction. Gotcha. Things being deconstructed, being removed. The positive of that is that sometimes you need a forest fire before green shoots can grow.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes we can't control what happens to us, and sometimes, how many times in life has something terrible happened to you, but you look back a few years later and in retrospect you think, that was actually probably the best thing that happened to me.
Oh, yeah.
So it's raw at the moment, and people like the safety and the security of having a nice solid ground to be on. So the card, the Tower, would be maybe a negative card, but that would still be a positive thing to happen to you. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
right.
Interesting. Wow. Well, this has been one heck of an experience. We're getting actually to the end of the hour and a half. It has flown by. I don't know about you guys, but it went by quick. Wow. And like I said in the beginning of this episode, I know we could talk to Adrian for a lot longer. That's why hopefully we'll get him back on here again. Yeah. I always love talking to Adrian because he always brings some crazy stuff that none of us are very informed on about.
Mason's a believer.
Yeah,
I'm a believer.
After this, the whole experience, it's a mind. It's definitely something that
in the short time I've known you, I've seen this kind of evolution and growth where you're coming to my thinking a little bit more. I know you're a man of science and you want facts.
Yeah, it's very skeptical. I think I am very skeptical. So when stuff like this comes in, and I wrote down some of this stuff. The Michael Glidden and the Jill and Gail Eisenhower. And if anybody else heard anything, when we did that, we did about a half an hour long thing where we talked to these ghosts. And if you hear anything and you hear something we didn't hear, because like Adrian said, everyone can go back and listen. They might hear something, none of us heard it. And if you find something, commented it, or you can hit Adrian up or
research
me.
And let us know. We'll research.
We'll research too. And I know I want to figure out if there's anyone. I'm sure we'll find somebody. Jill or Gail or Michael Glidden.
Speaking of that, Ethan, do you have something to give away or no? Is that envelope anything in it?
Well, we actually didn't. We're not giving away anything this week. But like I said in the beginning, we're giving away the Jason Purrington Sheriff shirt. And all you got to do for that again is share, comment, retweet, like. Just spread the word, and it's been a great episode. Thank you so much, Adrian, for coming on.
Can I advertise a few things?
If you got to plug anything, there you go. Here's
You're going to regret saying that now, aren't you? If people are interested, they can find me on Facebook, of course, and I will do readings. I do readings around town. I do readings all over the Midwest. So if somebody wants to know about love, finances, romance, whatever it may be, career, obviously I can access people's dead relatives as well, and I'm happy to do that, and I work all over the Midwest doing that. I have a radio show, More Questions Than Answers, at 10 p.m. Central Time on the Dark Matter Digital Network. We've just been nominated in the comedy section of the Best Podcast of the Year award.
Oh, there we go.
Wow.
In the comedy section?
Yeah, people think I'm funny for some reason. I don't know why.
They don't have a ghost section, do they? You guys would have to win that one.
They have a popular choice section, but we didn't make that. But if people want to listen, More Questions Than Answers, 10 p.m. Central Time on the Dark Matter Digital Network. We have 100,000 listeners in 190
You're
countries.
doing your 200th episode, aren't you?
Yeah, last week. We're on 201 this Friday.
Congratulations, that's awesome.
It's the average podcast lasts for 7 episodes, so even you've got yourself further down
17,
the road.
I've been on
17.
The average was 7 if you look it up.
Wow,
yeah.
That's crazy.
If people want to join my Twitter account, that's Adrian_Lee_tips. We have 100,000 followers on there. Wow. If you go to Facebook, More Questions Than Answers with Adrian Lee, all of the ghost stories, all of our evidence, everything is on there for you as well. One more thing, if people are interested, and we're raising money for the Historical Society in Renville County. If you go to Renville County Historical Society on Facebook, in 2 Saturdays' time, August the 25th, Saturday, I'm going to take a coach tour out to Granite Falls, and we're going to go to the very haunted Volstead house. And I've investigated there many times. Andrew Volstead was the founder of Prohibition back in the day.
Oh, wow.
We're going to go to the Second World War Aeroplane Museum, which is the Fagan Museum by the airfield, and then I'm going to do a tour of the cemetery. So tickets are available. All the money goes to the Historical Society, so we're doing this for non-profit. If you go to the Renville County Historical Society, either their Facebook or go to their accounts and their emails and so forth and their websites. That's Saturday, August the 25th. You're welcome to get a ticket. Join me on the coach. We had a great time last year. We went up to Long Prairie. Lots of history.
Awesome.
Lots of hauntings and lots of anecdotes if you can stand listening to me for another couple of hours. I have a captive audience on a coach. No one's going anywhere, are they?
Exactly.
Unless they climb out the windows.
And I will link all this stuff in the description for anyone listening. This is all the links to Twitter, Facebook, the Dark Matter Network. Brilliant. I'll put all that on there so no one has to go type in a bunch of stuff.
Sure.
People are lazy
If you
nowadays.
search Adrian Lee, more questions than answers, or psychic, or paranormal investigator, you will find me. You've only got yourself to blame if you can't find me.
I'll link all that. Like I was saying, it's been great to have Adrian on here. Damon and Mason, thank you guys again. Yeah. This has been one heck of an episode. Thanks everyone for watching. We will be back next week. This is the Ethan Clerc Podcast Show.